Hello scholars! This video will give you more detail about the different invading cultures of Great Britain that helped develop the English language. During this video, you will want to pause to take notes. Before we begin, let me tell you what information from this presentation you will need to know for your test. You should learn the names of the invading cultures and what language they've brought to influence English. You will need to know the order in which they invaded, but I will not require you to remember the dates that each culture invaded. First up, we are going to discuss the Celts. They are considered to be the native inhabitants of Great Britain. The Celts dominated the island from about 750 BCE until the Romans invaded several centuries later. The most ancient words in our modern English language have root words from the Celtic tongue of Gaelic. The Celts had a thriving culture of their own, even before other cultures invaded and influenced the language and customs. Their religion was called animism, and their priests for their religion were called druids. Let's go ahead and take a look at some examples that come from Gaelic root words. So first off, we have this word cairn, and in early Gaelic, it's actually a word that means a rocky mountain. However, hikers use the word cairn to talk about piles of rocks that help them figure out what path to take when they're hiking. Next we have the word pet, and it's from a Gaelic word called peta, and that means tame animal, so you can kind of see the connection there. Another word is clan, which in Old Gaelic meant children or family. That's a word that's still used a lot in Scotland. We also have the word trousers, and then one of my favorite words is shindig, and that comes from the Gaelic word syntag, to skip or jump around. So shindig is sometimes what they call a dance. So now we'll move on to talking about the first invading culture, which were the Romans. I hope that you remember from your history classes that the Roman Empire stretched across several continents. The Romans were even able to invade Great Britain in 55 BCE under the leadership of Julius Caesar. Of course, the Latin language that they spoke was an influence all over Europe. So let's take a look at some terms that we use nowadays that come from Latin. So first of all, I want you to see this root word mar. Mar in Latin meant sea, so the word submarine means like it goes under the sea. That makes sense. There's also this fun word marinate, which means to soak your meat in liquid. So I guess that has a connection there too. Another word is lact, which meant milk in Latin. So lactose is the protein found in milk. Yet another word to think about is the word sculp, which in Latin meant to carve, and so that's how we get the word sculpture. Just a few other examples. The word for field in Latin was agra, so now in modern English we have the word agriculture, which has to do with farming. And then a really simple one, nomen in Latin meant name, so we have words like, of course, name and nominate, to name someone to a position. And then one last Latin example, the word circum in Latin meant around, so that's how we get the word circumference, which of course means the perimeter of the circle. So, the next group to invade are the Anglo-Saxons, and the first thing I want you to notice here is the time period for the dates, 400 to 800 Common Era. And the reason we don't have a solid date for the Anglo-Saxons is because this time in history actually entails these groups invading just intermittently throughout the centuries. So we have groups like the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. And there's really no one date that they invaded. They just raided and pillaged throughout the centuries. Even though there isn't a particular time frame, a particular date, each group ended up spreading an ancient form of German into the language. Something else that I want you to note here is that the term for the country England comes from Angle land, those two words together. It is also important to note that at the beginning of this time period, St. Augustine was sent to Rome to convert everyone on Great Britain from pagan religions to Christianity. And he did a great job with his task because it soon became the dominant religion of Great Britain. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few examples from ancient German. First of all is the word angle, and I want you to think about how close that sounds to the word ankle. The original Middle High German word was Anki, and if you think about how your foot moves around, you can kind of connect that to the idea of the angle. Then another Proto-Germanic word is books, and the original word actually really sounds just like the modern word book, which of course is one of my favorite words in the entire language. A couple of other fun words, we have holiday and we have kind. All right, we're moving up to the last of our barbaric tribes to invade, and these were the Vikings from Scandinavia. So eventually, they are going to settle down and become farmers and Christians too, but before they settled down, they raided and pillaged all over Great Britain and made a big impact on language. Probably the most popular example of a daily used word in modern English with an Old Norse root word is Thursday. Think of Thor, the god of thunder. Thursday, Thursday. Get it? Okay. And a couple of other quick examples are clip, window, and guest. Now, moving on, we have come to the last major group of invaders whose language influenced English. The Norman conquest happened under the leadership of William, Duke of Normandy. The Battle of Hastings occurred on October 14th, 1066. The conflict behind the battle began with a guy named Harold Godwinson, who had made himself King of England when the old king died. Several people, including William, Duke of Normandy, also had a claim to the throne. So William went after Harold and he won. After the Normans conquered the Anglo-Saxons, French was the official language of the aristocracy in England for several centuries. This was a perfect way for French to infiltrate English. Around 30% of the English words in use today have French origins. Here are a few examples of those words. First of all, we have admire and bravery and courage, caterpillar, and justice. I bet if you study French, you can figure out a way to say those words with a French accent. All right, now you have a great foundation in your understanding of how the English language was influenced and cobbled together. Throughout the next few lessons, we will continue our discussion about specific words that have been influenced by other languages throughout the years. Take luck, scholars.